Hey, what's going on, everybody? We are talking about how to not be authentic. So here are 5 ways to just guarantee that your brand film is going to suck. Okay, because then the reason why you don't want to be authentic is that authenticity is scary. It's kind of frightening. It requires that we relinquish control over the brand to this untrustworthy individual who is going to be on camera, either speaking for us or speaking on behalf of our customer base. It's our requirement to control our brand narrative. So we can't leave our brand narrative up to chance. We can't just entrust our entire brand story to some random individual. So we have to maintain standards, and we have to control the brand story. So here are the 5 ways to completely eliminate all authenticity and guarantee that you will be controlling your brand narrative. Number 1, use a teleprompter. So a teleprompter is the absolute best way to guarantee that your exact marketing language is going to be communicated flawlessly, especially if the person using the teleprompter has absolutely zero practice using a teleprompter. This basically ensures that they are going to completely set their personality off to the side, and they become essentially your brand representative. It's kind of like your brand automaton, where they are only focused on saying the words in the order that you've put the words in. And it requires basically zero emotional inflection on their part. They might not even structure the sentences tonally properly, but you're sure they're going to get the words correctly. So absolutely use a teleprompter. And then also specifically speaking about the teleprompter script, you want to make sure that you get about 20 different people approving that script. You have to ensure that the script is the most expensive script that you can possibly create, because it makes you know that it's meaningful to the company, okay? Also, because we're going through all these specific layers, with each layer of revision, what we have to do is remove any sort of humanity out of the script. So all that remains, all that can possibly remain at that point, are our corporatized, jargony words. Specifically, things like optimized, systematized, solution-oriented, those things, really, really good. Number 2, the second way to remove any authenticity is really you have to understand that it is the person's personality on camera. That's the dangerous part. That's the part that you can't quite control at all. We can't let them get too personal. They have to act as a representative of the company. So to ensure that that happens, invite all of the stakeholders for the video to the interview. Make sure that there is an audience for this interview. That way, the person is never going to get comfortable on camera. They're always going to be, not necessarily focused. It basically ensures that they never relax, that they never become too comfortable with what they're saying, because when you become comfortable with what you're saying, things slip out. You're not watching your speech properly. You're not controlling all of your words. So having a lot of eyes on that person definitely guarantees that they're going to be very mindful of every single word that they say, and they're going to be on their toes the entire time, and definitely will not relax and be their authentic selves. So invite as many decision makers on the project to the interview as possible. Write out the questions specifically that you want to ask. Write out all of those questions in a question format ahead of time. And don't deviate from your question list. Your questions are your way, again, of controlling your brand narrative. It's your way of controlling all of the language and controlling the entire process. If you deviate from the questions, you risk having an actual conversation with the person you're interviewing. And that's going to throw them off, because what you need to do too is send your entire question list to the person being interviewed ahead of time. This is going to guarantee that they are prepared. It gives them an opportunity to see all of the questions that you're going to ask and then write out all of their answers for all of those questions. So encourage them. So again, create an interview atmosphere. Come prepared with all of the questions that you're going to ask and encourage them to meticulously review every single question and come prepared with their answers. Number 4 is, in fact, come prepared with your answers. So write out all of your answers to all of the questions. Make sure that you rehearse them the night before, and then come to the interview with notes. With either have all of your answers typed out on pieces of paper, just to make sure that you're staying on script. So that way, when whoever is interviewing you within your department, when they ask you, or within your organization, when they ask you the question, you can kind of like take an opportunity to pause, review your answer, and then deliver your answer. That's the absolute best way to make sure that you don't get too comfortable, that you're staying on brand, which means that you're staying on script. What also might be helpful too is if instead of just having them all written out, because that requires you to constantly look down and look at your answers and look back up and look down, it can be distracting to the audience. So print them off on note cards, maybe even give yourself some cue cards, and make sure to have one of the stakeholders who is in the audience watching you, ask them to hold up your cue cards for you, so that way you can read your cue cards and your answers and ensure that you're staying on script. And finally, number 5. Make sure that you have either your copywriter, your marketing director, or some sort of marketing manager present to give you lines and feed you your brand language to make sure that you're actually communicating the value propositions properly. What I mean by this is, say you messed up number 4 and you didn't actually do your homework, you didn't take time to type out your answers, you might attempt to wing it. You might attempt to just go off of feel, and that's not good. So make sure that one of the stakeholders in the audience communicates to you the branded language that you have to speak back to the camera, right? That they're there to feed you lines, okay? And then you make sure that you speak those lines word for word. This is also really important too if you're doing customer testimonials. Never let the customers speak their own language. You have to feed them your brand marketing language, because if they use their own language, right, there's not a consistent message across your marketing materials, right? It's not controlled. Okay, so you have to make sure to feed them the lines word for word. So if they said something that sounded close, but it's not exact, give them the actual line and just have them say it back to you. It doesn't matter if no emotion is in their voice. Again, what matters is if the words are communicated properly. All of this has happened to me across my entire career. All of these are examples of how companies desperately try to control their message, right? But what they inevitably do is it's at the sacrifice of authenticity. And the fear, as I explained at the beginning, is that authenticity is scary because you're allowing a person, you have to trust that person to now communicate in their own language through their own personality your message. The thing is we're focusing on the wrong thing when we're thinking from that perspective. What we care about as an individual when we're encountering other marketing materials is we're making an instant judgment of whether or not this is authentic, because authenticity is actually the key to a successful message. It's going to be the key that unlocks our attention. If we even start to sense that something is inauthentic, what we understand about it is that it is fake, it's manufactured, right? And it's there to deceive me and to manipulate me. Unless, of course, this is something that has been created specifically to entertain me, then I will welcome it. Like if it's a comedy sketch or if it's a dramatic sort of like type of commercial type of thing, like I see that and I'm like, okay, this is manufactured, right? An over-the-top professional commercial. That's manufactured, but it's entertaining, so I'll give it my attention, right? There's almost like once it breaks into like a high art standard, I'll welcome it. But if it is like, someone is trying to control something, especially if they're trying to control language, but they're posing it off as if it's a documentary, right? They're posing it off as if it's authentic. They're trying to be authentic, but they're controlling all of the language. We know it's manufactured. We know what we're looking at is a lie, and therefore we don't pay attention. We actually create an aversion and we try to block it off. So the biggest threat to the success of your content isn't if people are going to say your value propositions word for word. It's actually whether or not your audience is going to feel inauthenticity. If they're going to feel that it feels fake and forced because the judgment is manipulative. It's you are now intentionally trying to manipulate me and you're just lying to me. And that's the worst way to destroy your own brand equity, is to start coming off as a liar through your marketing materials. Inauthentic brands aren't trustworthy. And our goal is to try to lead our customers down the path of know, like, and trust. So it's imperative to us to be authentic because marketing is relationship building. That's what we're doing. So we're just trying to allow and bring humanity back into business, bring humanity back into marketing, and embrace being authentic. And so if you want to understand how to be more authentic with your materials and with your videos and with your marketing videos, just do the exact opposite of what I just talked about. All right, as always, you can find me on Instagram. You can find us also on Twitter at Storytelligent. Would love to chat about brand storytelling, brand filmmaking, content strategy, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.